Jacobs.
Hello,
As
Queenie.
you as you walk into the Blood Queen's um, cabin on her ship, the Queen's Crown, um, her room is set up very different from yours. You have a very home style setting on your in your cabin. You live there basically. She
Yeah.
uses this as a place to seethe and get pretty much angry drunk. Many of the objects in the room are smashed or have gash marks on them from some drunken fit she had at some point in time. And she rarely makes the effort to actually clean it out, except for when it gets in her way. And then usually she just chucks it out the window.
Right.
She is quite sober, which is rare for her. I think in the time that you've known her, you have seen her sober maybe twice. She is usually heavily indulged in whatever local intoxicant she could find. Um, she often drinks very, very rare imported spirits that she can, collect on raids and whatnot.
Yeah.
But she's sitting at a small table, little two-person table with a chair on each side, and she's sitting in one of them. And she has a very fancy-looking bottle of wine sitting in front of her and two empty glasses. She begins to pour one for herself and asks if you would like a drink before this discussion goes down, because she's been waiting for this, actually.
Of course you have. I suppose. This may take quite a bit of talking. I will,
I,
I will whet my whistle.
so what would you like to know first? She begins.
What to know first? Well, it's all gonna just come rattling out of my head as I remember it, so I'll just start with the first thing. What the fuck did you put my friend into a ship for? And then give me the fucking ship? What was that, some kind of sick joke?
I was actually attempting to do you a favor.
Of course.
Do you have much memory of your time before all of this?
Honestly, no. And that's Mike not remembering a lot of the
Oh, no,
last
no.
campaign.
No, no, actually, that's true. Actually, you don't.
Yeah.
And
Well,
neither
that's what I mean.
does
Like,
Yep.
I figured it would work.
neither do I. But there are a few details that are engraved in my brain, so much so that I can't not know them. And the details of your friend are actually one such piece of information. There are also a few things about me that you don't know, because we're not that close. We are very good business associates, and we take pride in making sure the other survives for one reason or another. As your loyal general, I will literally die for you. And make
Well,
no mistake that that is a pledge that I will never shake on.
that's, alright. Good to know. That's kind of expected at this point. That's what it seems to be around here. But, with all that,
Have you
it
ever wondered
seems to have
what
gone
my
down between us. What's that?
Have you ever wondered what my true name is? You've known me as the Blood Queen for, well, many years now.
There's a standing bet on my ship.
I hope you have never taken one of those bets, because I do not think you'll be correct.
Nope.
One thing I can remember from my past is that I
That if I did order McDonald's,
yeah, you're gonna
What's
order
that?
McDonald's, Justin? I want some.
damn it. Sorry, I thought we muted it.
Um,
Good.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Goddamn crew.
Yeah. Yep. I just hear the background talking. You're just like, wait, McDonald's.
Yep.
Um, I originally came from a small, unnamed farm community on the mainland of Olesia back in our original universe. During a raid, my family was killed and I was taken because they said I was pretty. And she like does air quote kind of things. And she has a lot of like vile, like there's a very sinister tone she takes when she says that.
Yeah.
Many years passed, and I was forced to do unspeakable things for those that ruled the Crow's court at the time. One day I had enough. I killed my captain, his first mate, and his best friend. That night I strung their entrails along the rigging of the ship.
Damn.
The next morning, when the general crew woke up, I exited the captain's quarters wearing the captain's regalia from head to toe. It didn't fit me very well, as he was a large man and I was a petite, starved child, essentially. But from that day forward, no one challenged my command, nor challenged whether I should be in that position. The detail in all of that strikes in my head is my little community I came from. For some reason, I can remember the small little shack that I grew up on. It was a 2-room building. The bedroom was essentially a large bed for our family. Our family had a very specific profession that was used as our surname. My original name was Skyla Tanners. You know someone with that last name, and
Tanners?
it's important that you understand who it is.
Oh.
Your friend Pierce and I seem to be connected in some way, shape, or form.
Ah, yes. Holy shit.
Now, what are the chances that someone, a small, unknowingly tiny farm girl, could have a connection to 2 divine beings? Yourself and Pierce. More of the
Seems
story
you-
fills out. Oh, go ahead.
Seems you were definitely something of import back in our old world.
I thought that for quite some time. But lately I'm more unsure than ever. A few more details kind of came to me once you found your friend. Shortly after you joined our crew, I don't know if you remember this, but we passed by you and your friend Aresis quite frequently in our travels, and you are 2 of the only younglings that never wanted to sign up with our crews. It was strange. You both were quite incapable people. I am unsure how either of you survived on the islands. They are a deadly place, and somehow 2 weak, unskilled children did a great job at surviving. But once you joined my crew, things seemed to change drastically. I had lost many troops, many soldiers, many sailors to the Imperial fleet during those days. I don't know if you remember it, but back in our world, an Imperial fleet sailed around the mainland, hunting pirates continuously. The only reason we stayed afloat is that our armada was quite large. But we could never actually match the Imperial fleet toe-to-toe. We tend to ambush their merchant vessels and sink their ships that were heading off for repairs.
I remember some of this, yes.
When you joined, I was Not entirely. It was not entirely unexpected that you joined eventually, but I was a bit surprised. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to question you during this time period, as we had rumors that there was an Imperial fleet heading our way towards the islands to clean up the islands once and for all, to clear out the pirates and to kill the Blood Queen, was the rumor. Now, the Queen's Crown, my flagship, was the only ship anywhere near fast enough that could have truly scouted if there was such a fleet on its way. So my ship set sail. After quite some time, it was all a lie. I searched for several days, and if you remember, our original world was quite full of magic. I was able to travel much quicker than anywhere on this planet. But there was one thing that was waiting for me out there. An assassin. An Imperial assassin. And that night, they almost completed their task. On the final night before I head back to the islands, I was alone in my quarters, quite angry for wasting my time. My time is something I don't like to waste. I had been drinking a wine, an imported spirit of sorts, similar to the one we're drinking now, and she kind of points to the bottle.
Yeah.
I never heard of the brand, but I assumed that we picked it up in a raid because it was in my quarters, so obviously I had got it from somewhere. It was poisoned. Someone took the effort into laying a trap in an attempt to magically intoxicate me. When I was fully intoxicated, the assassins slipped from their hiding place and attempted to kill me. Now, the assassin clearly didn't understand the magical items I possess, nor my will to live. If anything, it should be a sheer testament of how skilled I am and how prepared I am that I didn't die that night. But your friend Oresia is not much of an assassin. Had the poison worked properly, she could have killed me, but it is not her way to assassinate people, and her hand-to-hand skills are not up to par, even with an intoxicated Blood Queen. And she kind of does like a smirk and wink. But I must admit, at that time period, I had respected her art and the reasoning for her attempted to take my life. She had decried several times that she feared what would become of you.
Smart girl.
In a rare moment of generosity, I decided to release the girl. But she would be branded and marooned on an island. However, when I went to brand the girl, there was already a brand on her arm. An Imperial brand of life servitude. She was what is known as an Imperial child. Back in the days of our world, the Imperials branded children from their birth and sent them off into the world. Through this brand, they could track the child, they could scry on the child, and nothing could interfere with that bond. If I attempted to kill the girl or disfigure the brand in any way, it would mean a direct war with the Imperials, and that is a war I could not succeed on.
Some
Your
hefty
friend
magic.
Very much so. Your friend knew nothing of this, of course. When this brand was cast upon her, she was but an infant. The Imperials back then were incredibly efficient spies. At this point in time, I had spent nearly an hour with the girl, and I can only imagine what information the Imperials picked up. I was essentially giving away my position every moment I spent with the girl. This girl had to go away forever. and killing her was not an option. I set her free, and I even returned her to her boat. In the last moments that I saw her, the silence that we gave one another was all the information either of us needed to know. She would return back here in a short time, and I would allow her to leave and say her goodbyes. If I gathered my information correctly, I do believe that was the last evening Aresis tracked you down and saw you. And she made up a point to stop you and have a chat with the ship you were on. She pretended to be peddling some goods or whatever to the captain that was on your ship, and it gave her enough time to talk to you and say goodbye. There is a moment in my head that I can see that I was not there for, so I'm very confused as how I know it, but I can see your parting moments. I can see her waving to you, saying goodbye, and that she'll see you soon. And I can see the smile across your face, knowing that your friend had finally accepted that you had joined the Blood Queen's court and didn't have to lose a friend for it.
Yeah, I didn't want to go all the way out back.
That night, my ship appeared out of the mists like a stalking shadow. And I offered Aresis a choice, something I do not do very often. Aresis could go off to the mainland and kill herself and avoid a war that would bring the entire island chain into war. And her best friend would surely be on the front line of that. She kind of stares at you for a moment. You would have been on the front line, of course. You were a new recruit. Or I could trap her soul in a phylactery, similar to a lich. But without any of the benefits, of course, as lichdom is quite difficult to achieve. She might one day be free of her prison, but no telling when that would be. Almost without thought, she accepted the offer of being put into an artifact. She knew that she did not want to die, and she knew that her time of seeing you was quite limited anyways, with your parting of ways. She decided that the artifact was the right thing to do given the circumstance. Interestingly enough, with the ritual complete and it being a complete success from every mage in the circle at the time, the girl's soul went into the ship. However, the girl's body remained on my ship, with an Imperial brand no longer on her arm. This husk was an abomination, something left over that, according to my mages at the time, needed to be destroyed. And so it was. We killed the girl and burned the boat.
Their beer tastes sour.
For the first time since I had been the Blood Queen, while sailing away from that burning vessel, I felt that something was wrong in the universe. Not just my life. This wasn't just a normal girl. Something about her, something within her, drove her to make choices so independently of outside forces that, for the first time since I became the commanding officer in the Court of Crows, I worried about what was to come. That is all I can remember of our past life. I need you to understand that of everything from our past, that is the only thing I can fully remember. That is the entire story that I can remember. Everything else is just a blur. I'm sorry that I can't tell you more. There is...
That's quite the tale. And,
there is one more piece to this before you go. and she reaches into her pocket
It's got the tower and everything.
and she pulls out a very carefully but clearly aged note. And she kind of sets it on the table.
It's the exact same colors.
Please ask any question you can before you read that note, as that will change a few things potentially.
Change a few things. What?
Potentially.
Oh, okay.
Before you look what's in that note, ask any questions you have of me.
I don't even know if I. Well, thank you for the tale. I believe it. It's interesting how, quickly she would do that, but at the same time, it felt like slight coercion of you made it seem like if she didn't, I would be killed. Like that was her only choice. Either way is what it is. It happened. She chose. Now, as to asking other questions. There's so many things that have been going on. All these things I've been doing with my allies. I've kind of forgotten all about this little note you handed me forever ago, or I think that's what it was, and it's the thing about Kenna not trusting her.
Yes.
What do you mean? Why not?
points
She has been nothing but helpful.
She points at the note on the table. That will explain a few more things. Read it.
All right. All right, I read it. I detest reading unless it's a map.
As you reach out and kind of like grab it and begin to like slowly unfold it,
It's so in the chords now.
the Blood Queen looks at you. She says, "Jacobs, when I appeared in this world, I had a note in my pocket. It was the only thing I carried when I woke on the Southern Hook Beach. As you open it, it is clearly in the handwriting of Oresis, and not the Blood Queen.
What?
The note begins. My dearest Marmar, I cannot even begin to tell you how much I miss you. How much I long for us to go back the way things were before you joined the Blood Queen's crew. I miss running on the beach, trying to catch that dragon turtle that always hangs out near the docks. I miss hearing your ideas of how you want to be the greatest pirate to sail the seas, even though you had yet to set sail to that day. Oh, how I miss just seeing you fall asleep under the stars. You are meant for great things. I've always known it, but there's something I need to tell you. Something I can't tell you, so I leave this note. A woman approached me 2 days before you joined the Blood Queen's crew. She was a strange-looking woman. She possessed such strange eyes. Each was a different color. And her hands ended in what looked to be at claws rather than fingers. Oh, but she had the most wonderful little fairy dragon with her. Oh, how you would have loved him.
He's alright.
He told me he was a mighty dragon slayer, and that my goddess, I believe the little guy.
Yeah, he's not wrong.
The woman, though, she spoke of things that you would accomplish. She spoke of your greatness and how one day you'd be required to save the universe. How crazy is that? But she told me something that scares me. The rest of the note is torn off at this point. And you notice that it matches the bottom half of the note you carry with you.
Alright, is that in a handout Or
Nope, it's just the simple message I said to you.
and that you sent me in Discord or on the.
I
can't
think it
remember.
was on Discord.
Okay,
Just a simple little phrase.
Sorry.
no, it's fine. I'm
It
muted.
should have been like probably the first things on Discord, actually. Yep.
He's having fun. I didn't want to take it away from him.
Yeah, it's like the very first thing you personally messaged me, or I messaged you on Discord.
All right. Yeah, my cat was going crazy with the bottle cap. Okay. Yeah. All right. All right. Now,
As you kind of connect the two pieces, the Blood Queen kind of looks over at you and she says, I don't have more information for you. I just know you needed to see that. Those two pieces were ripped just like that in my pocket when I arrived on the beach.
but all of the beginning part is all just her describing Kenna and this, just the encounter.
Yep. I will post here. I will actually send you the
I don't know what to make of this. God damn it! Making my brain hurt.
That's the plan.
I need more of that wine. By the end of this, I'm gonna be a Western pirate. I know it.
I have a few theories on the note, and your current endeavors seem to be leading this way. What if you and your allies successfully fix the universe, or attempt to? What if you are able to go back to other universes and fix things that someone such as Zaladin or Eos broke?
All right. So,
If your friend attempted to warn or approach a past universe, Aresis, maybe there's something going on that you better look into before making any big decisions. And we're going to pause there for a second because we need to switch over to Kenna.
all right.
Okay.
All right. Did you like that, Jacobs? Mike?
Oh yeah, no, I'm thinking about stuff now. That's a cool tale.
It's a big thing.
Yep.
So
You
Kenna,
waited so long.
well, you're at one of your research stations. It doesn't really matter which one. Somewhere in one of the outer planes. You're looking up at the stars of the plane you're on, just kind of trying to connect some dots on your current research, and a nearby apparition appears. It is of a much older version of... No, actually, hold up. I actually screwed that up. So let's rewind a couple seconds here, because I am messing up my lines. Here I am planning things out, and I'm screwing it up. Now I need to fix that. No, fix. Okay. Anyways, as you're doing your research, time and time again, you come to the same conclusion. And this is about the fourth or fifth time that you've traveled the multiverse in an attempt to figure things out. There seems to be something wrong with the universe. it's almost as if it wants to implode on itself. The big disasters that happen, they're generally not caused by outside forces. They have commonly been caused by the universe just acting upon itself. And it's about this time that you finally kind of come to this conclusion and stop dawdling on alternatives and start to consider that what if that is true?
Do I know for sure that this is something's wrong, or is it just like the natural state of the universe?
It might be planned like that. It's almost like if you took the universe, and this is the best way that the best analogy I could give you for the way Kenna would probably look at it is that it's almost as if the universe is a band-aid on a much larger wound. And whatever that wound is, it's bubbling up and attempting to ruin the band-aid, if you will.
Well, that's exciting.
This is probably about the time where Kenna like finally begins to contemplate that idea. And almost immediately, like within seconds of her like kind of uttering that to herself or scribbling it in her book, an apparition appears and she hears a voice in her head. So you finally figured it out.
Who is this apparition?
It is a much older looking Zaladin. He is missing his left arm. His left eye is pretty much crushed in, almost like it's a, you know, like if you took like a maul and crushed someone's skull in right there. And in his right arm is his, you know, a staff that he wields. And it's bent and broken and all sorts of slashed up. Though the clothes he wear look brand new, so it doesn't look like he came from a battle. It looks like that's just him now.
Indeed, I do believe that not taking shortcuts certainly makes things take longer, but I feel that it gives a greater scale of comprehension to the matter. Very interesting. Looks like you've had some trouble in the future.
Yes, it seems Eos and I no longer see eye to eye.
Was that ever the case?
You may be right, but it seems as though he has taken it upon himself to see to my destruction this time around.
Is there a reason I should care?
No, not at all. Although maybe take it as a warning that he will eventually grow tired of your games as well.
Oh, I had already considered the possibility fact.
Yes, but that is neither here nor there. This is more of a you and I needed to speak, and I feel that waiting a few thousand years was the best way to do it. I feel we had a couple... We had too many close calls, and I feel like we both needed time apart before we reconvened. But it seems as though your timeline is getting murky.
And I'm sure that some irresponsible sorcerer traipsing about, mucking things up isn't helping.
Pierce had nothing to do with it this time.
I was talking about you.
He does a wink with his one eye, so it's more of a blink. It's actually a bit more complicated than that. The timeline isn't actually something I can directly influence, but I need to give you a few pieces of information, and it is extremely important that I do, and it's imperative that I do now. But most importantly, it will almost guarantee my destruction in the nearish future. but it is something that is going to be required.
So you plan to erase yourself from existence?
It seems I am lacking a choice. And therefore, this is the way out for the universe, so to speak. As much as I enjoy power and, well, knowledge, it seems that is pointless if the entire universe is going to be destroyed. You and your friends have a very interesting way of always happening upon the proper problems of the realm. And I feel as though it is my responsibility to extend the first olive branch and apologize for my past behaviors. And I speak of the eons and eons ago mistakes, not necessarily the most recent ones.
It is very on brand of you to come back in time from the brink of your annihilation to do so. Saving it till the last possible minute.
Yes, it seems that that is how I'll be remembered.
Nonetheless, any apology, no matter how late, is always appreciated. And I certainly consider your past mistakes more severe than your present ones. For obvious reasons.
I have spent a number of years, a number of timelines, investigating the oblivion that is rumored to be at the core of the planet. There are a few things that I overlooked that everyone, including Eos, has overlooked. When I attempted to bring forth and control an oblivion, I didn't necessarily fail. It seems that a sliver of it remained within me. Locked away, hiding, if you will.
Makes sense.
For the longest time, we had no information on the Oblivion aside from what the Divine would give us. My curiosity was, I still believe to this day, well-founded in that I believe anybody else in my shoes would have done something similar. But needless to say, the problem that has originated from that event is not of my creation. Eos is lying to all of us in a much grander fashion than I originally assumed. Eos does not recreate universes. He recycles them. Through my research of the timelines, I've found a key factor in each and every universe that I could find, each and every timeline that I could find. The same beings, the important ones, always seem to reappear in some fashion. The most obvious, glaring in my face example of this is your friend Pierce. It seems that in all of the timelines I can find a Tanner's family that are small farmers of some manner, and their children go on to be great things. Your timeline is nearly impossible to figure out, but I imagine it would be similar of yours if I could figure it out. The Jacob's figure, your friend, the pirate, he seems to be tied to everything as well, though his is a little bit more complicated as he seems to have been a problem with the universe in the first place.
Damn right.
Say.
It seems that wherever Jacob shows up, it is almost like a timestamp on a universe, signaling that within a number of years, the universe is set to be recycled.
Harbinger of the End Times. I'm sure he would like that title.
When these universes are recycled, whether it be because Eos is being lazy or just doesn't fully understand his own powers, I am unsure.
Is he
But-
aware of these through lines, these ribbons of fate tying the worlds together?
He does not seem to be. There seems to be a place that Eos is blind to. Very specifically, it seems as though he has an actual blind spot in his own creations. Part of it comes from the fact that he is so powerful that focusing in on a minuscule detail is quite difficult. The other part is that he is so arrogant that he refuses to believe that he can make a mistake. I genuinely believe that he thinks he is recreating universes in an attempt to get what he wants, which he still will not divulge to me. But each time he recycles a universe, more and more, we'll call it debris for the lack of a better word, ends up in the far realm. It seems that that is a recycling plant, or a dump, if you will.
Some kind of dimensional entropy, you'd call it.
It seems as though the most recent acquisition is a girl and her soul. I do believe her name is Aresis. Quite recently, in your timeline, I believe it was, he's like, he pulls like a small piece of notebook paper that he clearly wrote on so he didn't forget details. As clearly part of his brain is crushed
Got
and
a
not working fully.
conspiracy board.
Yep. If my notes are correct, a soul has recently joined the Far Realm after you and your friends had made a journey. Now, I don't know the details of the journey as I never looked fully into it, but my notes indicate that you are looking to retrieve this soul. The warning that I will give is that things that go into the Far Realm generally don't come out, and if they do, they're usually not the same. If a friend of yours' soul has entered the Far Realm, whatever comes out of it will not be the same soul. Your friend Jacobs has a connection to this being. I do not know what it is. As I mentioned before, he is quite difficult to pin down. But do tell him to be careful, for a rash decision on his part could literally end the universe. If that soul has ended up in the recycling dump that is the Far Realm, there is a good chance that it is not designed for this universe, and trying to manipulate it may have great unintended side effects. As for the other version of that girl that seems to exist in this realm, if you would like, I could help you in aiding and returning her to her original universe. Though I don't ever expect you to trust me or take that offer here and or now. If you ever decide to take that deal, just return to the Tower of Time and I will find you.
And I imagine for you that will be immediately.
Yes.
Regardless of how long I take.
Yes, it does not matter. Time is not a concern for me.
Well,
But
it's right of you to assume that I would not accept based off of this.
no, and I never would expect that of you. You are far too intelligent to make such a stupid decision. I have never once aided you in anything, really. So to expect that I would aid you, understand that aiding you eventually will be my apology. Your friend's soul is acting as a sort of beacon point for a lot of horrible things. And the longer she remains in this universe, the more and more terrible things will happen to the.
Out of character, did we have a plan to get her back to the previous world? I feel like we did, but I don't remember what it was.
I don't believe
Is
so.
there
As
like
far as
a
I'm aware.
place we're gonna go?
I
Nothing
thought
that I
the
know.
only place was that little fucking island.
Yeah, I do believe that the only locations that we haven't fully discussed have been the temple on the island and the far realm.
Right, which are connected.
Yep. Well, yes and no. The temple is actually a, long story short, a demiplane that goes into a secret prison door on Tartarus. It's the only access point to the prison of Tartarus on Hades.
Okay. All right, that's where Dora is.
Yep. Correct. It's a door that directly leads to her cell, so it's not actually like to the prison proper. You can potentially get into the
Like
prison.
a place we should go. um, yeah. Okay. So, Aresis from the last past time is in the wrong place. We gotta put her back, and then the soul that was in the ship got shoved into the far realm, right?
Correct.
Okay. Interesting.
I must leave now as it is taking a great bit of concentration to reach you this far out in this form, so do what you will with that information, but understand that if you need my aid, the offer is extended.
The offer has been heard. For what it's worth, I hope you find whatever redemption you're seeking.
Let's just say that of all the beings in the universe, you're the only one that could potentially see my point of view, so I'm hoping that you understand that what I did back then was not that unusual for beings such as ourselves.
I
And that
certainly
while
understand that.
then my offer and apology are well placed. And he just kind of like fizzles out, like almost unexpectedly, like he's about to say something, and then like the apparition just disappears, like fizzles away.
Alright. Cool. Have to think about that for a bit. Keep
We
studying the bubbling wound that reality is covering.
Yep. Reaching on over to Pierce. After maybe a week or so of you working with the lords and ladies of Adminius, a large number of their noble court are undead. Well, almost exclusively they are undead. There's only a handful that are not undead, and they actually discussed the transition of actually moving their noble court to this new city because they kind of want to give the power of Adminius back to the mortals.
Well, the more the welcome.
The few beings that remain within Adminius that actually want to, remain in leadership that are undead are at best unwelcomed nobles. They're like the black sheep of the family that you wouldn't trust with your bank account information.
Okay. Fair.
And this point is almost ignored by the people that are leaving. It's almost like you see a uncaring of what truly happens to Adminius. It's almost like well, here's the keys. Good luck.
Oh.
And those that are not undead and are in leadership positions,
32.
they will most likely
Got another follower.
put up a power struggle
There you go.
Yep.
because they're going to try and form a campaign to most likely get rid of the undead that are in the city,
Sorry, I got really into listening.
primarily because of the current situation. While you don't have a direct stake in Adminius, the one thing that is important to note is that Rosalina Ravensong, the Banshee Queen, she's become somewhat of a friend to you, and she is pretty much the first person to volunteer to go to the new city because she is a very adamant believer that intelligent undead should have their own rights.
From Bavaria.
Cool.
Seeing as she is an intelligent undead, or was.
Right. Makes a little bit of sense.
You see that her uncaring towards what happens to the mortals, like here in the city,
Talking about Germany.
as
Yeah,
kind
I'm
of
talking about
a
Germany.
uncharacteristic
There for a year.
act
I
for
know how
her.
they drink beer.
Yep.
Her entire life, unlife, has been dedicated towards the survival of her people.
Right.
While you guys are in your new city, and you're setting up your religious capital there too, right?
Yes.
Okay. Making it very clear that obviously it's your efforts that are going into this, so you're going to have the grandest of temples.
Yes. Absolutely.
She kind of interrupts your work to discuss a potential alliance of your religions. Something to make it much more, we'll say, binding to those undead that live here.
Okay.
She discusses the proposal of an actual proposal.
Okay. Who's she proposing to?
Yay, political marriage.
She blinks several times at you and lets you think on it for an hour or two while you are staring your undead eyes at her.
I would be blankly staring for quite some time. That is true.
I mean, you both do it a lot, so it fits. She mentions that the decision will in no way affect whether or not she wants to come to this city, but she will mention how awkward it will be that you declined her proposal. But no, the actual reason for it is that she is actually an abstained god, which means she cannot become a prominent force. And seeing as she is the god of music, undead, and nobility, she believes that it would be a powerful addition to the undead pantheon, as you will.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
And she mentions that when you became god of undead, wouldn't it be nice if, somebody didn't block you out at that time?
Yeah. I guess she doesn't know about my other girlfriend.
Or she doesn't care.
Yeah, fair enough.
Everybody knows undead are polyamorous.
I'll have to get back to her on that one.
Yep, take your time.
Bone anyone.
Giggity. That being said, a couple cool revelations happen. Sven, voice of the haunted, the bardic god of music and wealth, also decides to move into your city. I think he's like the single living person that moves into your city.
Yeah, he likes to follow me around.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Harder.
he's not living in the like per se actual living manner, but more so in like he really, really likes being around undead for a not undead guy.
Right.
And he really likes to speak for them, so he makes songs about them all the time. So your city is pretty much always like enchanted with this dreadful music that he plays constantly. And it's kind of hard to get him to stop because that's what he does.
I like it. Gives the place a little bit of a pizzazz.
Yeah, so like any mortal that walks in there, it's like if you go to like Lavender Town in the original Pokemon games, how it's like dreadful music playing, that's him.
That was like the best music, so obviously it's the best place.
But as you are walking about your castle, you once again fall upon the painting of Oresis that is in one of your main halls. You notice that like the visuals of her is so spot on. Like whoever made this painting wasn't just like a talented artist, it's most likely magical.
Okay.
And well, let's be honest, you'd touch it eventually.
A few times.
Yeah. Well, why don't you go ahead and give me a charisma saving throw?
Oh boy. My cup.
Just
I
straight
don't-
up charisma.
Yeah, I mean, I don't imagine you will fail a charisma saving throw, but there is always a chance.
22.
Did you really roll that bad?
I am not good at rolling. You know this.
That is enough, barely.
Wait. Yes. Sorry. Yes. Haha. See? I didn't fail. Too good for that. I was distracted by the brush strokes.
You momentarily pause as if like something almost overcame you, like almost. Like you heard more voices in your head than normal for a minute. And then you were able to kind of like push that aside, be like, no, you're not the right ones to listen to.
You're not my normal voices.
But you gain flashes and glimpses of another world. A fantastical, well, for you probably nightmarish because it's a bunch of islands and a lot of water. But you actually see Oresis sailing her boat from the dock as she waves you goodbye. And you catch a glimpse of yourself in like a piece of glass or a mirror or whatever. And you are a younger version of Jacobs. For the next maybe 10 minutes, you live the life of Jacobs.
Get out of
in
me!
those final goodbye moments.
Inside of a young boy. Got it. Understood.
He's like, I miss being here. Creep.
Oh, no.
It's nice and warm.
He's just in a skin suit.